Hi, I'm Chris Januszewski. Welcome to the Rebellious Times Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to introduce to you Heidi Sporel, founder and principal of E2Excel Marketing. Heidi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks very much for joining me. I'm really excited to share your story as an experienced agency owner. And the episode name is High Standards, Lean Teams, and Real Results Inside a 15-Year Agency Journey. So would love to start by getting a little bit about your background as to how you became the founder and business owner of E2Excel Marketing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Before I started E2Excel formally in 2011, I had spent 20 years on what I'll call the client side. Working for organizations such as Sony, Western Union, NetTest, and Ritsu, and some nonprofits. I held a variety of positions from promotions manager, business analyst, product manager, international marketing manager, and director of marketing. Was charged with many product launches across those organizations, and especially for some of the smaller organizations, establishing credibility for new products against some key competitors, particularly in the tech space. Before I started this agency, my last position was with a quasi-federal government contractor where I started my role was to rebrand a 20-year-old nonprofit in the healthcare sector. What I did from there, we did the rebrand, but then from there was really responsible for helping grow that organization with the Department of Health and Human Services and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So I spent, as I said, 20 years there, learned a lot, and then 2009, the Great Recession hit, and the organization that I was with had some financial difficulty that many of us had lost our positions at that time. And I went on to work for an agency who I had been their client for 10 years. They needed an account manager and someone who understood SEO and website development. And so I spent about a year doing some work with them, and then kind of said to myself, wait a second, I can do this also. All right. And that was really where E2Excel was born. My first client was a brand new startup in the smart city space, streetlight controls and smart city space. And it was a uphill battle. They had no revenue, and this was the time of when TARP money had just happened, and cities and towns were saying, we don't need streetlight controls because we have LED lights. Long story short, that company, I ran marketing for till the end of 2021 when the company was sold. And when it was sold, myself and my team, we were proud because they were recognized as the industry leader. So that's a little bit of background, and E2Excel has just continued to grow since then.
Love it. Thank you. It's a fantastic experience actually going from the client side and understanding exactly what makes businesses tick before stepping back over onto the agency side and then delivering from there. I'd love to know where the name E2Excel Marketing came from.
E2Excel. Okay. There's two parts to this. So E2Excel, I did my undergraduate education at Boston College, and the motto was ever to excel. Men and women for others. I'm a true believer that if you give good karma, you get good karma. Okay. And if you help someone, in their journey, it will come back to you. So E2Excel came out of that experience. Boston College for me, was a transformative experience in my life. All right. Even though I was young, hugely transformative, and really has guided a lot of the principles that I deal with, and the way I live my life today, many years later. But it's also E to E. What does that mean in the marketing world? For us, we look, and how we treat our clients is we look to elevate their brands by executing, the two E's there, by executing dynamic marketing and creative initiatives.
Fantastic. Love it. Thank you. That adds a
And
lot of
our tagline is creating the future because we look at our clients, and we help them create their future by, meeting their goals with, dynamic marketing initiatives.
wonderful. Thank you. Um, so you run a lean team over there. We're in interesting times at the moment where all businesses and agencies and employees are trying to figure out how to leverage the new wave of technology that's arrived. I don't want to say the two letters because we seem to be saying them too often. But um, you're keeping your team lean, or you have a lean team, which is great and which is appropriate for the times. I'd love to hear about managing an agency, with minimal headcount to be able to deliver for clients.
Well, again, I've always been the underdog. All right. Even especially when I was on the client side. I think running a lean team, and I have a very lean team, all right? But the individuals that I choose or the partners that I choose to have on my team, they're experts in their fields, they're trustworthy, and they have the same philosophy that I do, okay? Is that we have to deliver with quality. All right. It's not about quantity. We have to deliver with quality, and we really have to be strategic. Strategy is at the bottom, is at the foundation of everything that we do. So my team and my partners, they have to look at it that way. If they can't live with those, I'll call it rules, so to speak, or, ideals, if they can't live with those, then they're not going to be part of this team. All right. And I've been blessed that, I've had people on my team for, some have been with me since the beginning. My graphic designer, she and I have been together for 12 years. Some of my development team have been with me literally since day one. And we continue to grow our team. We're always looking for excellent talent. But again, those ideals of quality, and strategy, those are at the foundation of everything.
Love it. Thank you. I'd love to dig in a little bit there. So I have Rebel Commerce Solutions. I'm a growth partner consultant to small business. I very rarely give myself a plug, so I thought I'd kind of drop it in there.
No,
But
go for it.
I had a client conversation last week. It was a client prospect, and we talked about my business model. And I said that, primarily my role as a consultant is to understand business needs, do the discovery. There's a sales aspect to it as well, and then manage projects. And I work with partners who are the subject matter expert, because I can't be the subject matter expert in the deep enough sense for all the different disciplines of a go-to-market strategy.
Mhm.
And his feedback to that, his comment was, well, I'd kind of prefer if you were an agency that actually had people that were employed in-house and you were kind of managing all of the disciplines hands-on. I'd love to get your perspective as an established and experienced agency owner as to the difference between which functions you prefer to have in-house and which make the most sense and which to work with external expertise on.
Okay. No, absolutely, absolutely. So in-house strategy, graphic design, storytelling, those are in-house, because we have to listen to what our clients are saying to us. I've been really lucky that this business has grown by referral, okay, because we believe in quality. Um, for the first 5 years or so, I had an internal development team, all right, and they're still part of this organization. However, they're now partners, because what happened, technology is changing so rapidly. All right. So in this, I think you'll see where I divide this. Technology is changing so rapidly, whether it's web, mobile applications, now AI is changing everything. Um, what I saw at around 2016 is we started getting a lot of clients who, especially in web development as an example, wanted different types of technologies. Either they couldn't afford something, they wanted to try something new. We have retail clients. There were all types of different things. So what I was seeing at that time, was that a lot of agencies were basically saying to prospects and clients, you really have to take what we have. okay, or they're trying to shoehorn things together. That's not fair to the client in my book. All right. So what I strategically looked at what we had and said, I have a good team who can do X, Y, and Z, technically, but I really need to be able to offer more and meet the client where they're at. So that's what we've done, and we continue to do it. Is technologies are changing. So we bring on partners. Again, they have to live by those other ideals. All right. But we bring on partners that, we do the strategy, we do the design, we do the content, we build it, internally, but then to bring in these other technologies, and make sure that we're meeting the needs, particularly the growth needs of the client. Um, Bringing those technologies from external partners that we can trust, that's been working for us, and it's been working for us for like 10 years. So for us, that model works. I oversee every client project. All right. But also, my partner, my graphic designer, she is also a brand strategist. All right. So, I have full trust in her. We understand each other really well. So having partners and team members that you can trust is absolutely critical. But again, from a cost perspective, especially when you're a smaller boutique agency, to be able to hire and pay excellent talent, that gets tough. It gets tough. So, and I don't believe that an agency should ever tell a client, we understand you want this, but this is all we can give you. So this is what we're going to give you. Again, this part of this comes from having been on that client side for 20 years. I experienced that, as a client. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, thanks very much. So meeting the client where they're at,
Yeah.
um, being honest about your own capabilities and augmenting them with expertise so you can provide exactly what the client needs rather than just the narrow set that an agency may have.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
love it. So something we spoke about previously is educating business owners on marketing value. So what um, we're in a world where I think agencies can invest a lot of time pitching for jobs, pitching for opportunities, invest a lot of time building decks, building strategies before they actually get into a contract and get paid. And maybe they don't even win the job. Maybe somebody else wins it.
Mhm.
Um,
Uh-huh.
what's the balance between demonstrating value up front but not doing free work?
Okay. No, that's a very good question. I think part of it, I think one of the values is educating the client. All right. And we've learned this lesson over our years. Originally when I started out, first few years, you're always anxious to get that client. So you really do give a lot away for free. Um, but there is a balance. I'd say what you have to show to a prospect is that you really care about their business, and you have to look at it also. I think one thing that helps us win business is that we show to clients that we're not just looking at everything from the marketing perspective. Everyone on my team, we all have many years of business experience. All right. And we look at not just the marketing part. We look at, okay, what is sales doing? How is finance involved? How is IT involved? Like, you have to look at all of those different things. And I think that's one thing that showing a prospect that you can look at the operation of the business overall. I think that's a really important thing. But then there is that fine line. All right. We just had a prospect the other day on a call with us. They were talking to another agency as well, and it was something really simple. And they said, well, this agency said we can't use a QR code, on our business cards. We can't use it for X, Y, and Z. And my partner was on the call as well, and she pulled up to the prospect and said, "Here you go. This is exactly how it works." And they were like, "Really?" And they're like, "But the other agency said no." And then we're like, "No." So, we showed them that step. They were also on this call. They were also the person kept saying to us, "Well, we own our URL." And I looked and I said, "You can't own your URL, you can license your URL." And she was like, "What do you mean?" But I'm getting told we own our URL. And I said, "That doesn't work." And we showed her how you license a URL. But then also I said, let's take a step back. This is not really marketing, it's more legal. I said, "Are you potentially confusing that someone has told you you own your logo, okay? You own your brand name and your logo, and you've potentially filed a trademark application." And she was like, I said, "Is there confusion here?" Because I said that those are two very different things. And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And we literally showed her and I said, we are not attorneys, but I said, "Here, let's take on the call, on a Zoom call." I said, "Let's take a really quick look." We went to the US Patent and Trademark Office website and we said, your company doesn't have an application in." And so she walked away. She was like, "Thank you so much," because she's like, "You gave me education that I didn't even know existed." Um, now I'm going to go back to and talk with my senior management and say, we need to talk about this a little bit more. So I think one thing that really helps that clients appreciate is when you do help educate them. There is a difference. There is a fine line, and it definitely, there's a finesse point. I'm not going to lie. Um, there is a finesse point where, when we're giving a client a proposal, we'll tell them, "Okay, we see issue A, B, and C." And top line, we'll tell them, "These are the ways that we can help you." We have, as I don't think there's an agency owner out there who has not had the situation where they've been asked, "Well, give me every detail of exactly what you're going to do in a proposal." In those situations, and we've had it happen, and I will be honest, years ago, I did get burned, because I shared things or I trusted people that I thought I knew. And, they took that strategy and they ran with it and said, "Oh, we can do it internally." So I think I think that two parts. I think prospects appreciate you when you educate. All right. But at the same time, you as the agency owner, there is a very fine line of where how much information you give in that proposal or in those presentations. I hope that answers your question.
No, it absolutely does. And I imagine with your experience of having worked with many clients, you can kind of gauge from the conversations you're having and the way they're going as to, if it's going down the path where a prospect is just fishing and trying to
Yes.
get free information and if they're a fit for you and genuinely a fit for your services.
Yes, yeah. It gets, again, experience tells, but it gets pretty clear pretty quickly when someone is fishing. There's no
Yeah,
question about it. It
brilliant.
sounds like you've had the same experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been learning over the last 13, 14 months now. I've learned a lot. I've had quite a few different experiences. So yeah, these are things I come across. Love it. I would love to switch gears now. Obviously, you're a business owner, a founder, and a principal, but you're also a mom as well. You have a family. How
Yes.
do you balance this kind of high pressure role of running a business with the high pressure home role as well?
Um, I you need to take time for yourself. That's very difficult. My children are most of my children, three of my children, I have three children. Two are older now, but when I started this, they were in high school, middle school, and one was two. My youngest daughter was two when I started, 2.5 when I started. So it definitely was a challenge. I'm not going to say it wasn't. Today, it still is a challenge, I'm not gonna lie, but you have to see what's important. You have to be there, as a parent. You have to be there for those, important things, and I feel that they need to know that you're always there. That if it comes, push comes to shove, okay, that they are your priority as a parent, all right? I think that's really, important. Um, also, this is where I think sometimes picking the client, all right, and understanding the client, what the client needs are. I mean, my children know, over the years, you can imagine, you have times where there's a fire drill, all right, and you have to do something, you have to just get it done for the client, and that's it. So my children understand that, and growing up, they've always understood that. But at the same time, you have to pick those clients as well that understand and that value what I'll call work-life balance. And it's again one of those things that, as you're talking to clients or prospects, you can ascertain. We've turned away clients, okay, because of sometimes the way they've treated us. Okay. I have I have literally written into contracts because, sometimes we're dealing with bigger teams. I do serve as the fractional CMO for several organizations. My team, in some cases, we are an organization's entire marketing team, or we are supplementing their marketing team. There have been instances where I have seen individuals within organizations be disrespectful to my team. All right. And what I've written into contracts is that if, we can leave if they're disrespectful. I mean, those are egregious situations. It's only happened a handful of times. But I do take that seriously. So there is definitely a work-life balance. That you have to find. It is difficult, but you make it work. You make it work. So I know it's a hard question as a working mom, as a working parent. I think my kids see that I love what I do. All right. Marketing is a passion of mine, and helping businesses grow is a passion. But I think, ultimately my kids are number one. All right. And what their need will always come first.
Love it.
So
Yeah, they're the purpose. They're the reason you do it, right?
they're the reason I do it. I've got two through college, and as we talked before, my youngest right now is choosing where she's going to go to college. So yeah, it's important to be there for those like critical moments.
Yeah, so I'm always ready to learn from agency owners and from other parents. So my children are pretty young right now. I've got a totally different set of challenges. Love the little things, but it's a lot. It's a lot for me and my wife. Um, you've got your children in university, a bit older, and that's going to come for me hopefully at some point. I know that you went through a whole process of helping select the universities, and something that's in the UK to go to university costs virtually nothing. It's so cheap. Even to Oxford and Cambridge, there are caps on the annual fees.
Mhm.
In the United States, when I moved over in 2011, I could not believe how much money people spend on going to college. The fact they're there for 4 years, the fact half of the things they study have nothing to do with the purpose of the degree, and the amount of debt that they come out with. And
Uh-huh.
over how many years have I been here? 15 years? It seems to have got more and more expensive, and the value of the degree in most instances has become less and less over time, right? In
Mhm.
terms of ROI. It's a scary, it's a scary prospect. And I'm having to save money to send my kids to university, not knowing how much, not know if it's a good financial decision. What's the process you went through in choosing universities?
Um, so I have three very different children. So my oldest, my son, he was pretty set that he was going to go either into law, or he was going to go into finance, investment banking. So we knew going in that had that school. He needed a school with a pedigree, all right, because of just the nature of particularly investment banking. It's all about the school you went to. Ultimately, I hate to say it, but that is a big driver. He wound up going to Boston College. I will not. I will tell you, it was a financial juggle. It was definitely tough. And he's been out for a number of years, but it was definitely tough. It took a lot of planning. But we'll call it a cost benefit analysis when he was going through this. He worked really hard. He knew from the time he was 9 where he wanted to go to school. He actually went to my alma mater, to Boston College, and I was not a parent who told him to go there. But he worked really hard, and he was really committed. We knew and understand that with what he was looking for a career, and he was super focused, that the investment would pay off, and it is paying off. My middle daughter, she's a high school special education English teacher for a really underserved community. Um, she knew she wanted to go to a small school. We knew that we were going to really look at what kind of merit aid she was receiving for going to college. And she wound up with at a very small school on a bachelor master's program, and came out minimal debt. All right. And it wasn't such a hard financial thing with us, but minimal debt. And she's doing great. She's where she belongs, and she'll tell you it was the right school for her as well. My youngest daughter doesn't know what she wants to do. And so, we've looked at many schools. We've been fortunate. She has gotten amazing merit scholarships. All right. But where we're at now, we're down to the last four, and I think the last two that she's going to make her decision on. Besides the merit scholarships, now we're really looking at what is the right fit for her. Um, because she doesn't know exactly what she wants to, we think she's going to wind up in like data science, business analytics, or computer science. We're looking at and really now evaluating, and she needs the most support on making that fit, okay, or finding that right fit for a variety of reasons. But telling her, saying to her, like, okay, now, you kind of have an idea what you want to do. You've got some great options here. Let's look at all of the other parameters. Like, what is the living situation? What are the internships that you're going to be able to get? Because when you look at college, and I think this is across, if there's one standard thing across all three of my kids that we're looking at, is what potential does that university give you after graduation? Because really, you're going to college. It's a really formative time in your life, but you're going to college to help you get that job, okay, or go to graduate school or wherever you're going to go. So that's like one of the things that across each one of the three kids, we looked at, is the school that you are considering and that you ultimately choose, are they going to get you to where you want to be in your career? Okay. And are you passionate about it? I think, one of the things that parents shouldn't do, even when you have a child who's undecided because they like so many different things, is don't force them to do something that you think that they should do, okay? Or go into a career that you think that they should go into because, you love that, or your spouse loves it. My husband's an engineer. I'm in marketing. Not one of my three is engineer or marketing. Okay. So I would never say to them, well, you need to be a marketer, or you need to be a business owner. I think that's one of the things, because then that's a recipe for disaster. They've got to find their way as well. But again, merit scholarships, looking for, where's their passion, and, you know, what's the long term? Do they have those internships? We've been really, because I've gone on a lot of college tours and accepted student stays recently in the last month or so, and really talking to the professors, getting to know them, and is there going to be a fit? So that's been a journey, and I've done it now. I'm in my third time, and it's been fun. I wouldn't change it, but it can be stressful for parents. Again, if you're coming from the UK and college costs are different, in the United States, it is a major commitment for a family.
Yeah, I mean, Heidi, I love hearing what you do. You're an amazing parent. I can tell. And
Oh, thanks.
my
I don't know if
parents are,
you'll say that.
yeah, no, my parents are amazing too, but they didn't really understand the system or able to give me great guidance for college. And so I ended up getting into the wrong thing. School didn't give me guidance. I didn't really know, steered into the wrong thing. And there was a knock-on effect after that in terms of me getting started in my career, because I struggled through college. I started in accounting and finance, and it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't get half of it. And, the balance sheets and all these things
Yeah,
back in the day with no life context. Switched over to economics. Again, it was all theoretical. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have to think about interest rates. It
no,
wasn't the world I was living in. Now it's a lot more straightforward.
yeah,
So coming out of college, kind of set off on a difficult path of trying to squeeze into, jobs and do the right things. But it probably took me 7 or 8 years before I found my thing, and then moved
yeah,
down to London and, e-commerce and, on the marketing side of business and kicked off. So yeah, what you're saying there, if you can get help from someone, from your parents, from your school teachers, whoever it is, to actually help you
Yeah.
make good decisions, it has a significant knock-on effect to your career advancement.
Yeah, I think, again, like I said, I had my older two were very set. This is what they wanted to do. My youngest is not like that. I think the thing that parents have to let kids do is also explore their passions. I've seen, friends, colleagues, kids who have taken a passion, a hobby, and turned it into a business. And that's okay. I think I think that is one of the things that parents today also have to look at. And maybe some will call me a more progressive parent. But I think that you have to let your child, uh, explore those things. Now, is there a boundary? Yes, there is a boundary. And I've been lucky my kids understand the value of money and they understand how hard it is to make money. All right. So and I know the older two didn't do this, and I know the younger one will not do this. Um, I think one of the things we taught them from a young age was the value of money, how hard it is to make, you need to save, and so forth. So my oldest two didn't do it, and I know my youngest will not do it. Is go to college and say, this is party time. All right. You want them to have fun. Okay. They're finding themselves and so forth. You want them to have fun. But the number one reason that you should be going to college is to learn, to help, forward your life. All right. You might have some struggles along the way, but ultimately, those are the two things. This is not, I'm going to go have, a nice time on, especially my parents', dollars. My older two, they work during college as well. I think that's a really good thing. I think that's important because they'll also see how expensive things are. And I think that parents today need to teach their children financial lessons. And that doesn't start when they go to college. That starts much, much younger. Okay. So I think that for my family, I think that's been a really positive thing that's helped us a lot.
Heidi, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Um,
Thank you.
Before we go, if somebody wants to reach out to you or to E2Excel Marketing, where should they go?
They can go to e2excel.com. That's E, the number two, EXCEL.com. They can reach me. My phone number is 978-846-2659. Or they can send an email either to info@e2excel.com or my personal email address. And that's Heidi, Heidi .Sporel, Sporel @e2excel.com. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks to you too. See you again, Heidi.
All right. Take care. Bye.